Hi, Mighty Mike here, and I'm your instructor here in the basic training module where I'm going to show you what you need to consider when you're thinking about starting a process serving business. If you watched the 10K and 15-day challenge, which was the 90-day challenge before, then I went over this like live, and it wasn't really in an instructional type of format. It was really just me taking action. So if you haven't seen that, you're definitely going to want to go check that out. But for this, we're going to talk theory. I'm going to explain why and what resources you might want to look at when you're thinking about starting a process serving company. And if you've already started a process serving company, a lot of this stuff is going to make sense to you because you're going to be able to go, oh, okay, I did that, but I did it the hard way. Probably is what you're going to say, because that's what I did is I learned the hard way, right? So let's go ahead and dive into it. Some pretty cool stuff here. So here's what we're going to go over. We're going to analyze the demand for legal document delivery and courier services in your area. Now, for those of you that don't know, you are a courier. As a legal document process server, somebody who's going out and serving legal process, you're a courier. Yes, you're a specialized courier, but you are a courier. And in many states, that is actually how you're classified, whether it's taxes, the tax deductions you're going to get, and stuff like that. So, courier services is definitely something you should consider offering as you grow your company. So, you do want to have a niche, which is the legal document delivery or process serving. But that's essentially what it is. And a lot of the tools that you're going to use are going to be related to courier services. All right, so identify potential clients like law firms, courts, businesses, and individuals. Pro se and pro per just means it's somebody who's representing themselves as an individual. The one thing I want to tell you is a lot of people don't know this, but if you actually build relationships with the courts, people think, because I have courts in here, and the reason why is because courts can actually appoint a process server. I know a particular process server in Texas that got appointed so much and got so well known because he was a local police officer that he ended up focusing only on doing child visitation. He actually ended up getting like this little school with these little arcades and stuff like that, arcade machines, right? Video game machines. So the kids could come in and play while they hang out with their father or their mother under supervision, right? And so he got into that because he was actually assigned to do many services directly from the judge. They're like, can we get this guy on it? The judge would say, hey, let's go ahead and assign so-and-so. I know he'll take care of it for me. So building relationships with the judges and the court officers, a lot of times they will tell you in the court that they can't recommend anybody, but that is something to consider. Build those relationships. Research competitors to understand their offerings, pricing, and service gaps. We're going to talk about that. We're going to gather feedback from potential customers to refine your service offering. And if you haven't done so already, go to mightymentor.com/flex. That is where you're going to be able to subscribe to my newsletter. I send out a newsletter a couple times a week that gives just the best marketing tips, tools, and tactics so you can help take your business to the next level. All right. If you haven't already, subscribe to me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Mighty Mike Reed. Always providing great content. Share this course with other process servers, people that you think it can help. I am paying out weekly to our Mighty affiliates, and we have a couple of them that are sharing it like crazy, and they're making a couple $100 a month already right now. So, warning: this is the most important video in the entire course thus far, so definitely watch it all the way to the end. If you want to, a little pro tip, you can actually go 2 times speed. I'm kind of a slow talker, so you're welcome to watch this in 2 times speed. All right, so we want to analyze the demand. Market research on local legal business activity. One of the things I always thought as a process server is that I had, even when I only had 1 or 2 jobs a day, I thought, surely I have all the business. Surely there's not more than a couple hundred more people in the whole country that are getting served divorce papers. Man, did I have it wrong. And so you want to assess the local legal activity, including law firms, corporate legal departments, courts. Now, here's the thing. this is going to become really vital later on, because if you build your business in a small little tiny town, you could become the big fish in that market. But you are going to cap out on how many jobs you can actually get. If there's 4 attorneys in your little town, you could probably end up getting all 4 attorneys to start using you if you treat this like a business the way that I'm going to teach you. But the reality is that's still only going to have you making, no more than like $100,000 a year, right? You can't even live on that nowadays with inflation, right? So you want to analyze the demand. You want to go and look and see how many attorneys are there in the area. Maybe there's a huge collection client in the area or in your state where you can receive work from them virtually, right? Are there huge hospitals right there where people are going and they live in the area, and there's a collection agency that's like serving them, right? That's collecting for that hospital, right? So you gotta look at the different areas in your area and see what the different needs are for a process serving. This is just a basic general market research thing. If you know that there are other process servers in the area crushing it, then you're probably fine. Now let's make this a little bit smaller. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, so technological advancements and integration. So a lot of times people in some of these areas, they don't use technology. And for example, I had one courthouse in the middle of nowhere that did not do e-filing. So at that time, there was a time where none of the courts used e-filing, and I would make $4,000, $5,000 per courthouse just in e-filing, just in court filings. They would email them to me. I would print them out and then take them into the court to file. And so, if they're using technology inside the courthouse, there's a good chance that you're not going to get that business, but you're going to make up for that by integrating e-filing into your business, by integrating recordings. Right? You can call it e-recording. Right? It's not really e-recording, but you call it e-recording like some of my competitors and friends do. And then what you're able to do is actually go down and file it in person, and they feel like they did it electronically, so they use you all the time regardless of where it's at. It's a really genius thing. And now we get into some of the stuff you actually saw me doing, like the competitor analysis. When you start looking at the competition in the area, you'll really start to get an idea whether this business is going to be worth it for you or not. I forgot to mention on the technological front, if your competitors in the area are not using technology, like giving the client an online portal to log in and check status and stuff like that, and they're kind of like doing things the old-fashioned way, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to differentiate yourself from those people, right? And get a good portion of the market share right away. All right. So when we're analyzing competitors, we're looking at what services they offer. Maybe they do process serving, but they don't do court filing, they don't do e-filing, they don't do skip tracing, they don't do anything else. That's a good way for us to wedge ourselves into that market. Analyzing your competitor services, their pricing, their reliability. What do people say about them? Right? When you're talking to attorneys, you don't bash on people, you don't lead them in any way, but you say like, "Hey, have you heard of such and such legal? Like, what do you think about them? How have they do? Have you ever used them?" "No, I've never heard of them." You're like, okay, I'm not going to tell you anything more about them, right? But the idea is that you try to find out what the reliability is, and what you find just by calling attorneys, the way that I teach you in this course, and then the way I teach you in the challenge, is essentially calling attorneys. You're going to hear from them. They may not name people, but you know who they are. Especially if they start using you, you're going to find out pretty quickly. What's the customer satisfaction? Understand the market saturation and identify service gaps. Yeah, we talked about that. So regulatory and legal compliance. Examine the legal and regulatory requirements for transporting sensitive legal documents such as confidentiality, data protection. Okay, so there's some compliance stuff. You want to make sure, especially with child support stuff, when it has like children's names. I actually had a special lockbox that I used just for the child support division. This was really just to kind of like make them happy, because they were like, well, how do you keep the documents secure during my request for bid? And I said, well, I kind of, I kind of like joshed them a little bit, and I was like, I'm gonna go buy one on the way home. But I was like, I have a secure lockbox that I keep in my car for anything that mentions children. And it turned out to be a great thing, because I got to keep it in there all the time. And anytime I had something that was related to children, I put it in there and locked it up. And I actually felt good about it. So I'm glad that I had that experience and went through with that. Um, yeah. So regulatory and legal compliance. The one thing too is analyzing the market is like, how easy is it for somebody to become a process server in your area? It's great for you if it's easy, because then you can start right away. But guess what? It's also easy for everybody else, right? So these are some things to consider. All right, let's keep going. Client prospect potential. We're going to dive into that now. So target law firms and legal departments. This is what we want to get into. So you're going to research the local law firms and corporate legal departments. Sometimes there's huge companies that actually have a whole legal department inside of their company, and they need to have people served, a cease and desist, eviction letters, big time with big property management companies, where the property manager inside the office actually does the filing and does the document preparation of the evictions. This is huge in California. There's actually a specific county, just like when you go to become a process server, you go and you pay your county fees. Well, there's also it's not really a certification, I guess a registration, where you could become an unlawful detainer assistant or a legal document preparation assistant. These are things you do, but you do them solo. You don't do them as a part of a law firm. You're able to get registered and do them separate. And so, yeah, just connecting with all the different types of people who might need to have something served. That's the key. Now, something that took me a while to learn is like, most of the time when people have to be served is because they're being sued. And you think, well, duh, Mike, that's what law is. No, actually, it's not. Law, a lot of lawyers never go to court. Like bankruptcy attorneys, nowadays, a lot of it's all just done electronic. If there's a contest, like 1 in 100 is contested or whatever in bankruptcy court, they may have to show up to court. But usually it's just a process where the person's paying a bankruptcy fee. The creditors or whatever might fight it. And that's all done by mail, right? And so they're serving each other, they're sending stuff by mail or whatever, all by mail. Collection agencies, once they get that initial service done, all the other communication by them is done by mail. So you have to understand, litigation law firms that actually are in court every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever, whatever their local court has. Eviction court, for example, an eviction attorney is going to be in court all day on Thursday, or whatever that court's eviction court day is. They're going to be in court all day that day if they're an eviction attorney and they're good, right? And so what you find is that you may end up being in court testifying on things just to really get slam dunk things for your eviction attorney. So your eviction attorney's clients win all their cases no matter what, right? So these are things to think about. You show up to court. Target law firms and legal departments. You want to think about these different types of specialties that you might go down. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Connect with local courts. I always say, if you ever go to a courthouse or you go out of your way to go to a courthouse, just go in there and ask questions. Go find out where the self-help center is, because that's going to save your butt later. When someone's asking for legal advice, you can just send them down to self-help. Say, yeah, actually, there's actually a resource at the courthouse called the self-help department. It's down here, blah, blah, blah. That's how you can really be an expert without putting yourself at risk. All right. And then what happens is you go in there every so often, you can hand out your cards and stuff. They may tell you not to do that. If they do tell you not to do that, just don't do it. There's so many other ways to get business than to do that and have people be upset at you. I know I did it the wrong way. Okay. Yeah. So let's keep going here. So establish relationships. Sometimes the official court document deliveries will be assigned to you if you make yourself known inside the courthouse. And just ask. There's an administrator. Every courthouse has like an admin person who's responsible for like making sure that all the court staff is showing up and going on breaks and all this. it's like a manager, and that person you can go talk to them back in the admin office, be like, I'd like to speak to the administrator um, of the court, the person who's in charge of all the employees and stuff. And they'll tell you, okay, oh, that's Julie. Okay, write that down, take a note of that. Now talk to Julie and say, hey, I'd like to get a local court box. Like, one thing I did is I actually paid the $10 a month to have a little box where the attorneys have their boxes. And so whenever something gets filed, the clerks will put stuff in their box. So I would file proofs in person. So I would get hundreds of proofs they would put in my box. And it said, and what I did is I took a little label maker, and on the outside of my box, I put, at the time it was 530 process servers, I put on the outside 530 process servers. So it was like a little ad. And they took it down a couple of times. And so but to me, it's like, that's where the attorney, it was kind of hidden in this little hallway. And so for months and months and months, it wouldn't come down or whatever. Nobody would notice it. And so the attorney, I think it was probably attorneys that were pulling it off. Like, oh, he shouldn't do that. We can't do that. He shouldn't. But all of them saw it, all of them saw it, even if they didn't mean to. And so I'm not saying to go do that. Who knows if somebody didn't use me because they saw it? I don't know. But anyway, it's all about branding, brand recognition, and marketing, right? All right. Hope that was helpful. Engage with businesses, approach businesses. I love going into property management offices and saying, hey, I'm a process server. I will serve your notices for free. And they go, well, why? Well, here's the thing. The number one, and attorneys know this, and oftentimes experienced property managers know this too. Oftentimes, the most contested thing in court, right? The thing that gets contested that keeps the court case from moving forward is the service of the notice. Do you know why? And the property manager's like, I don't know, man. I just hire the attorney for this stuff, right? And you go, well, let me tell you why. It's because the notice is served by you, who is the plaintiff, or the property manager who's representing the plaintiff in court. And so you're biased. And also, you're not taking a date and timestamp photograph of the posting. You're not, date and timestamp photo with a GPS location like put into the photograph, which I do on every posting. And so I will I'll do them for you for free, the notices, as long as you promise to use me for the eviction. Well, what do you mean? Well, you still use your attorney. Just tell them that you want to use me, that you already have a process server that's going to take care of the serving part of it. And it might actually save you money, because sometimes attorneys will tack on money on top of whatever I charge to serve. Really? Yeah. And we actually do a package deal. And I have a guy that'll come out. He's a professional locksmith and change the locks for you. When he'll come out and meet the sheriff. So you don't even have to do that part if you don't want to. Oh, I always meet the sheriff out there, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So and we have a handyman or whatever, but you just let them know that you do this stuff. And they're like, okay, wow. And so now I would always charge $297. That was what I started out at. And that would handle unlimited tenants that I needed to evict. That would handle doing the declaration of due diligence if it was vacant and they just needed to get an eviction processed. So this is a property. I'm probably going to do a special masterclass just on this, teaching how to serve property managers the best, because if you really do that well, the attorney actually works for the property manager. And a theme that I had throughout my business, growing my business, was exactly that, where I would go find who the ultimate client was. And then that client loved me. So they would tell the attorney, Mike is serving all my stuff from now on. And so it was all about relationships. And later on, getting into real estate, I learned how important relationships were. I was just doing this because I knew it would give me the business, but I didn't know actually how important maintaining those relationships were until I got into real estate. Because in real estate, if you don't build relationships, you don't make any money, period. Okay. So yeah, engage businesses. So property management offices, different types of real estate, different types of foreclosure attorneys, debt collection agencies. sometimes they call themselves credit bureaus, judgment recovery places, and then, of course, child support agencies, government offices that handle parking violations, stuff like that. I had all those contracts in my local county when I first started my process serving company, and you definitely want to look into that. Market to individuals. So the best way to market to individuals actually is to just have a great website, show up on Google, make sure that your website is ranking on Google, and people will actually they'll find you. And actually, you know what? I had a lot of businesses that would find me that they were individuals, but they had a business and they were suing someone in small claims court and they needed to have it served. I want to say there was probably 10 or 15% of my business was businesses suing other businesses. Yeah. All right. So search niche specific. I love this. So when it comes to niches, we talked about property managers and evictions, but probate, right? This is very related to real estate as well. But when someone dies, and even if they have a will, by the way, even if they have a will, if it's not a part of a trust, they just have a will, it goes through probate. And the court essentially looks at the will and decides who's getting what, how's it going to work, right? And so that's why they always say you need, and I'm not an attorney, I don't play one on TV yet. If you want me to, reach out. Struggling actor here. Okay. So probate, eviction, property managers, divorce attorneys, man, divorce attorneys. I cut my teeth on divorce. Like one of my first guys was a Rooney Law Firm, and he sent me. He was like the big shot guy. He drove the Jaguar. All of his attorneys that came right out of college would come work for him, and he would give them all a Jaguar, and with the gold dragon on the side of the cars. And anyway, I got a lot of work from them, and they would always give me. I thought they were just giving me the junk work. It's just that type of work. Divorce work is just that type of work. I mean, put a lien on a guy's house for representing him in criminal. They also did criminal at that place. And so I would serve the guy. I would do a notary for the guy to put a lien on his house, agreeing to put a lien on his house. Then I would turn around and go and serve him eviction papers when he didn't win in court or whatever. Or maybe he did win, I don't know. But I serve him eviction papers, and then later on serve him divorce papers. Like, it's like a sad story. But that's what you're doing as a process server, is you're delivering legal notice that they're being served. And Rooney would often call me into their board meetings and ask my opinion on how easy it would be to serve this so they can decide which direction to go sometimes on specific cases when it came to because someone would come to him and the guy lived in this area and he was a pot farmer, and they were trying to decide what would be the best way to win the case for their client. And so they would want my input on stuff like that. And I would gladly give it. There was a bunch of beautiful paralegals there, and I dated half the paralegals that worked there when I first started my company. And I had just gotten divorced, so I was having a good time. But yeah, collection agencies, huge volume, and child support agencies, huge volume. Judgment recovery is more something that you should just learn to do yourself. Like, just learn. And the reason why this is the last, like probably one of the most important ones, like long term, is understand judgment recovery. Like, once the case has been won in court, how are we going to collect? And that's what judgment recovery is. Collection agencies are similar, but with collection agencies, there's no judgment yet. Most of the time, they're just trying to get a judgment against the person who owes medical debt or whatever it is. And so if they can go through the process, which is serving them a summons, the person not showing up to court, they get a judgment by default. They file the judgment, they get a writ of execution. And the writ essentially is instructions to the sheriff's department to go, or to a bank. And there's two options. One is to put a lien on somebody's account or on somebody's property, so that whenever they sell that property, the person they owe gets paid before they do. The other thing is you can do what's called a writ and then do wage garnishment. So that's how you get money taken out of your check. So essentially, they serve the employer and say, hey, from now on, all the money that he gets, I want a piece of that. And there's legal requirements so that, minimum or maximum amounts, like 25%, out of each check. And I've done this a few times. It's actually pretty fun. Like, it sucks for them, but they made choices that got them where they are, right? And by understanding the full scope of it will help you to be able to explain that to potential clients when they ask you, like, okay, but what happens when I win? The guys can't bleed a turnip. Actually, you can bleed a turnip. You can put a lien on the house that he has his name on with his mom. Yeah, it sucks for his mom, but his mom should have raised him better or whatever. I don't know. But if he has his name attached to something of value, you can put a lien on it, period. All right. Judgment. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention. So, judgment recovery, the other powerful thing is when you understand this, you can start to network with literally everyone. If you go to these BNI meetings where they're all business owners and you say, I collect judgments, that's what I specialize in. I can find anybody and I can tell you how much is in their bank account. I can attach their wages. I can, you start to become this person that everyone wants to talk to. And I got many introductions that way where it's like, oh, Mike's the guy you need to talk to. Or can you come speak at our conference? Can you come speak at our event? This stuff is not that hard. If you understand marketing, you can leverage it to be the guy or the gal in your marketplace, and you can dominate your competition using that. That's why I say judgment recovery is so powerful. You may not do a whole lot of it yourself, but that can be the carrot that gets people to reach out to you. All right, let's see here. So researching competitors. Okay, yeah. So I do a lot of this inside the mentorship, or not the mentorship, inside the 90-day challenge. So identify your competitors. Compile a list of your local and regional competitors. Who are those people in your local market that literally show up next to you on Google? And then who are those giant companies that send work to your area? Let's figure out who these people are so we can understand the lay of the land. Because once you understand your competitors, now you can have a better understanding of how much you should charge. And this is so important because if they're charging less than you and they're in another area and they're using another local person, like, you're never going to win because they have all this infrastructure and marketing and ads and all this, and they're using the local notary who charges them $20. Like, how can you compete with that? So as you're researching starting this business, you may not want to start it in that area, or you may want to start as someone who doesn't really serve papers and competes with them directly, but someone who just does collections or evictions or specializes even more so, because then whenever you get a job, you're getting paid a premium instead of getting paid nickels, right? So research your competitors. I always say call the competitors as well and just say, hey, hey, local process server, new to the area, I'd love to serve for you. Oh, no, we don't send stuff outside, blah, blah, blah. I got lots of this, right, in the 90-day challenge. Or I should just start calling it 10K in 15 days because that's what it's called inside the classroom here on school. But if you watch those videos, some of the 3-hour long videos, you hear people, they're like, oh, I wish I even show you email responses where they're like, no, we pretty much keep it in the family here at our business, Cool. But now at least that I know, I've gotten to ask them some questions and I show you kind of how to do it in a sly way that's not really dishonest. It's just a little bit sly. It's just using, sleight of hand with your words to get the information that you need. There's nothing wrong with that. This is competitive nature, right? So analyze their service offerings. We talked about that. Each competitor has different types of services that they offer. If you have a specific niche that you focus on, you might actually be surprised and find that people are sending work to you from other areas because you specialize in that. Good friend of mine, Mike Kern, he specializes in out-of-state deposition subpoenas. And so a lot of his business, his extra business, right, because he's got a huge company, but a lot of his extra business that he spends ad dollars on is for out-of-state deposition subpoenas. When a subpoena has to be, naturalized for the local state, He knows how to do that. If anyone ever wants to know, I always send them to him because I already know he knows what to do. Um, there's somebody, what is it, Sterling and Madison, I think is what it's called. California, they do writs. They're like the writ kings. They like specialize in writs, and they do thousands and thousands and thousands of writs every year. So analyze what you could be good at. Like maybe just try everything in the industry, uh, and then eventually you'll become really good at one thing, and you can just tell everybody about that. That's what I specialize in. I specialize as being a process server. Okay, so you want to be a fry cook your whole life. You want to just be a fry cook, right? You don't want to go off and learn how to do the deli. You don't want to learn how to make the sandwiches. You don't want to learn how to work the register or the drive-through. Like the fry cook, when I managed a restaurant, that was there was no training involved. And the beautiful thing, and this is why these big restaurants blew up, is because the amount of training that goes in to hiring this person that works the fry thing. Literally, there's a beeper that goes off. Put the fries in, push the little logo for the fry, okay, and it'll go. You don't have to think about how much time it is because it'll go beep 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 beep. You pull the fries out. Literally, a monkey could probably do that job. So if that person doesn't show up one day, or that person doesn't do a good job, or there's just not the right attitude or whatever, you can fire them and literally have somebody else doing pretty much the same quality job in 2 minutes. You'll have a new person doing that job. And so the idea here with establishing yourself as a good competitor in the market is to not just be a fry cook. What else can you do? What other services can you offer to differentiate yourself? In marketing, we call it your unique value proposition. All right. What is your UVP, right? I want to get real technical here. All right. So, and packages. Yeah. Thinking of different packages that you could offer is a super powerful way of doing it because you'll get more money. And yes, you'll do a little bit more services, but not that much more. Like it just feels like a lot more to them because it's things they don't have to do, like filing the proof of service and stuff like that. So evaluate their pricing strategies. A lot of people will charge for skip tracing. I only charge skip tracing on the front end, like up front, if they don't have an address at all. They have no clue where the person is. I'll charge for skip tracing. But if they think they know where they are, they give me an address and it's wrong. The way that I still create that wow factor is I do a skip trace for free. And I send it back to them and I say, hey, here's your declaration. This is the attempts that we made. It turns out we spoke to the neighbor. It turns out this house is vacant, whatever, and they no longer live here. But we did the skip trace. We found it. We're pretty sure this is where they are. It's in the same city, same guy. Looks like it just updated last month. Would you like us to go there? It is an additional charge for the additional address. 100% of the time they say, yes, please go. Because we already told them, and they know they just saved $75 on a skip trace, and now they know the address. And sometimes I would tell them up front, hey, would you like us to go to the second address if this one's bad? Or in the field, if we talk to somebody and they say, hey, we talked to somebody at the house and they go, no, he actually lives right over there though. Will you pay for the second address if my server is willing to just go hunting and eventually find them at whatever address they find? Would you pay for the second address? We're not going to charge you for the third or fourth or whatever, but some servers are go-getters. They'll go out and go to the first address, find out it's bad. They could call it a night and you're going to pay for that address. But if we get your permission to go to the second address, third address, whatever, and we'll only charge you for the second one, would you be okay with that? Because it'll get done faster that way. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Almost every single time they're like, yeah, I'm okay with that. And so you set the standard that no matter what happens, all the different bad things that can happen in this situation, the customer knows I'm going to be taken care of. Why? Because the address could be bad. Mike's going to go to the other addresses. He's going to skip trace it. He's going to find it. Okay. If for some reason he goes to this address and it's a bad address. He goes to another address. It's a bad address, another bad. He's not going to charge me for the second or third or fourth because it turned out to be a bad lead or bad, whatever. If they, yeah, so that's kind of like how I've differentiated myself. So none of my attorneys ever worried, oh, what are you going to do? Or, what's your guarantee on service? Pro se's will, because they don't know the business. Pro se's or pro pers, self-represented litigants, they will ask you that stuff, and that you should expect those questions. If they don't ask them, you should ask them for them. Like you're probably wondering what happens if we don't serve it. Well, that's a good question. So first thing is, if we go out there and we make attempts at a bad address, we will do a complimentary skip trace for you, which is normally $75. But we'll do that for you just so we can get the address, because I know you want to get this taken care of, get this off of your plate so you can show up to court and hopefully win your case. So that's how it goes down. And you go through that, and you're paying for the attempts. You explain to them you're paying for the attempts, not for actual delivery. I'm not FedEx. People don't come running to the gate to accept whatever it is, to accept what I have to deliver, right? They're locking the gate, letting the dogs out, and shutting their front door and turning the lights off, right? So for me, it's a lot different than the FedEx guy. So you understand that, right? You have to pay for me to try to serve it. And I mean, it's just common sense. Most people understand that, right? So figure out the pricing models that works for you. If you live in the middle of nowhere, you may have to charge $150 for only 3 attempts, right? Or for 1 attempt. I've charged sometimes when it's like 2.5 hours up into the middle of Lassen or Mount Shasta in Northern California, and I know I'm only making 1 attempt. I'm charging them $250, and I'm going to go stay the night in my car up there so I can get 1 attempt at night. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'll do another attempt in the morning. And then I'm going to go camping with my family, right, up there while I'm up there. But I'm charging them $250 or $500 or whatever makes sense for you. And so as long as you have that leverage and you can explain that and you can figure out your pricing strategy, that's what's important. So what are the service gaps? We talked about that a little bit of like, I had one attorney during the 10K and 15-day challenge who straight up said, like, he's like, I need communication. If you serve it, I need a proof of service within a couple of days, not 2 weeks after you serve it. Like, he identified a lot of things that I had already known, but it was cool to hear it live on video where you hear him saying like, no, this other company, this is how they failed. And for some reason they gave me this weird proof of service. Like, just give me a normal proof of service that's accepted by the court, right? So good stuff. Good stuff. We talked a lot about service gaps. So benchmark against industry standards. So maybe in your local area, you could do nearly nothing and still be successful. But what would the market, what would the actual market, the best industry best practices, if you go to the National Association of Realtors or realtors, if you go to the National Association of Professional Process Servers, or you go to your local association like CalsPro if you're in California, or FAPS if if you're in Florida, or PASACO if you're in Colorado, right? Like, what is the best practice? Okay, and how can you position your service offering to provide the best value to that market and still be efficient? Okay, what is that benchmark for example, just one thing off the top of my head is like, it's a pretty common standard, like a thing that people will do is sometimes they will get a proof of service after serving something for you, and then they'll want to hold on to the proof until they get paid. You can't proof gate because the client needs the proof so they can file it. And if back in the day, you would send checks and stuff. And so if I'm putting a check in the mail and you haven't received it yet, I need my proof of service. You got to email it back to me. I can't wait for that. And so in the national benchmark or standard is that you don't do that. But a common practice is that people do that. And the reason why is because a lot of these bigger companies like mine and some others that I know, they're bigger companies. And so what they'll do is they'll float the fee, and because they're waiting to get paid from their clients, so they won't pay. Don't be that person. Just commit right away as you're building your process serving company to to pay your servers immediately. If they're getting a high volume from you, you can pay them, every 2 weeks or once a month or whatever, but it should be electronic. It should be like a wire transfer or a Zelle payment or something like that. I love using Zelle because I can log into my business account. I have them saved based on the zip code or the location, and so I could quickly find them and Zelle them $70, $100, whatever it is they're charging me, and they get paid up front. Like immediately as soon as I email it, I'm sending it to them. If it's someone who gets hundreds of jobs from us a month, then they send me an invoice, and then I go over the invoice, or my assistant goes over the invoice, checks all of them off, make sure we have proofs on all of them. And then if we don't have proofs on them, just making a note like, hey, we're waiting on this one to be notarized or whatever, and having a process that you go through. And I'm going to go over a lot of that stuff. If you guys like this video, if there's a lot of people who like the video and comment, value, and you guys are just having, you love these kind of tips, you love this type of training for process servers, I'll do more. Okay. So let's keep going. So a basic summary here, if you're building your process serving company, is to launch or enhance your legal document delivery process service business. You got to identify the key law firms, the key courthouses that might actually refer you business and bring you in as a part. Like if you focus on the divorce niche, which I mentioned a little bit, that's a really big one, because a lot of times people will disagree inside of the court. They got to get served, and they got to get served divorce papers, and then afterwards, sometimes they still don't agree to accept service, or the person's homeless or whatever other reason. You might serve them at the initial time, but you might end up going back and serving them another 15 times. And then sometimes there's subpoenas, because they're actually fighting in court, right? And they're paying the attorneys $5,000, $10,000 or whatever. So the attorney's like, I want to subpoena the grandma. I want to subpoena the aunt. I want the kid, the babysitter who said he was abusive. And so before you know it, you're just like serving 30 people for this case that's being heard on Monday, right? Today's Friday. And they're like, I don't care. Charge me whatever. I need these people in court. So if you're the professional and you know how to do this, understanding these different elements here and what types of businesses you can look at, and you can actually analyze your competitors. Do they know these things? Are they taking action on these things? If not, you could be the person that does it. So get the feedback. If you start getting customers, which you will if you make the phone calls, you do what I'm going to teach you, ask the competitor, how could our service have been better? What could we have done better? There's something about the humility of a business just straight up coming out and saying that makes people love you. All right. They just love you. They're just like, oh, okay. Well, I would have really appreciated the proof a little bit faster. You guys took a little bit long on the proof. And they might even pad it a little bit where, they wanted to say it a little bit harsher, I wish you would have communicated status, right? Because you served it a week ago. You did the proof, you filed it, but I didn't know any of this. I showed up to court thinking I was empty handed, and then the judge had the proof. And so I was stressing for nothing, right? So gather feedback and refine and differentiate your service offering from the other people in your local area. And this will effectively meet market needs, and you'll stand out from your competitors. And let me tell you something. If you have this sense of I'm going to outlast everybody, you will. You will outlast everybody if you just take your time and do it. Do it right. All right. You just take your time. You do the serves right. I've told stories about, serving for the small attorney that sends me literally one job a month. But because the paralegal was cute and she always asked me to come and pick it up in person from her office and then go serve it, I would always go serve it and immediately go back and give her the proof immediately after, the same day. And she would just be like, oh my gosh, like I used the other guy because I couldn't find your card. And I'm just like, man, kicking myself that I did that, because you're just the best. And that's how I got probably one of my largest clients of my entire life, because the other attorney in that office was an avid painter. He didn't do much, but sign papers. He was the attorney for the largest collection agency in town, collecting medical debt. And I got that account, and it changed my life. Like, my business was already doing well, but man, it made it where, like, I would have 30 or 40 papers every single day in my bucket. And it totally changed my perspective for how much business there actually was available in the market. So I'm doing a very special contest for people who actually take action. So if you go to mightymentor.com/contest, you're going to leave a testimonial review of the content. Like, what do you think I provide value? Like, you can do a video or just a written review, but do you think I provide value? If you think I provide value, go enter the contest, leave a review or a video testimonial, and you'll get entered to win our weekly contest. Every Tuesday, I'm giving away either coaching, SEO coaching, where I actually cold call for you, for your company, live on Zoom. I will call your market and get you a new customer that could potentially send you 100 deals a month, right? Or we're also giving away cash. We're also giving away different things. So thank you so much, you guys. Leave a testimonial, and every Tuesday we're giving away prizes. Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason so few people engage in it. Henry Ford. The truth is, if you actually take the time to think about the things that I went over here today, you're going to be successful. You're going to find the opportunities out there. You just got to put in the work. So let's get to work, you guys. Thank you so much. All right, take care, and we'll see you guys on the next video.